actually grant someone an interim use for feedlots or poultry facilities, then actually they could do an end run and, you know, set up some kind of stinking operation that we're going to smell for the next 5 years. Is that true? My point being, before you grant an interim use ordinance and get yourself in any trouble, maybe we should be going through these other codes that would enforce these things and make sure that they're up to date before we even think about an interim use for anybody. Like, for instance, what does the code say for a maximum number of chickens in a poultry facility in an interim use in an A2 district? I have no idea, but.
Was that discussed at all at planning?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Coop, we did talk about poultry facilities and kennels, feedlots extensively when we were at the Planning Commission, yes.
And the discussion, did it ever get to the point where we started talking about?
There didn't seem to be a concern about it. I mean, we just talked about clarifying it when we were talking about the new zoning district.
Well, I see the point of this as the interim use permit, and when you get into the specifics about what we're thinking of allowing specific to this project, to the Prairie Oaks Institute is the overall organization that's asking for this. If you take away the feedlot and kennel, where did kennel come from? Are they going to do that out there? Is that what they're talking about, or is that just?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so the kennel thing has to do with more or less what our city. I'm just trying to be more general than just that specific site. And then agricultural feedlots and poultry facilities. Now, I understand what they're running out there now. I know some of the particulars in that, for that organization and the poultry and that sort of thing. As things stand now, it's a pretty benign operation. It's not interfering with the neighbors, aren't complaining. And I think that they've got it, that particular parcel of land is set up so that it wouldn't impinge on any development that I can think of that would ever come in there. It's about, what, it's over 200 acres, isn't it?
I don't recall at the top of my head.
So I guess my point is that specific to this operation, this is a pretty, this applies pretty well. I'm not worried about it, other than agricultural feedlots, and Mr. Vo's bringing up the idea of like a hog operation, which obviously we wouldn't want in town. So when you say agricultural feedlots, that would be one thing that I wouldn't want to see taken advantage of, and maybe that kind of applies to Mr. Trost too, and his point of some of this other use. As far as kennels are concerned, the city has, you know, like Mr. Murphy said, we've gone through some issues with people boarding too many dogs, and so we've tightened up the kennel regulations, and actually the pet ordinance is taking care of the kennel stuff, right? You can't have more than 2 animals, so technically you're not running a kennel. So as it applies to stables are probably not an issue, living quarters, that sort of thing, all these other issues seem okay. It's just that this agricultural feedlot is a concern of mine, and kennels is a concern of yours, Mr. Coop?
Well,
I kind of want to narrow down the conversation, you know, to make
Mr.
sure.
Mayor,
well, okay, agricultural feedlots, I suppose you're talking about any kind of animals, including mink, poultry facilities. My point is, someone comes and says, I want to have an interim use for a kennel. Do we have ordinances that control kennels? And if we don't, do we use the interim ordinance at that point to try to come up with every possibility that they're going to come around with to define a kennel at that moment, at that night?
Mr. Mayor,
or how do we do this?
we already define kennels in the city code.
Yep.
Would you like further clarification for each of these uses? Because we do already define most of them.
Well, give me
Poultry
a
facilities in the city code?
poultry facilities? Yeah. What have you got for poultry, off the top of your head, if you don't feel?
I'm not certain off the top
Okay.
of my head.
And how about agricultural feedlots, off the top of your head?
I'm not certain. We do define feedlots, yes.
Yep.
I can provide additional information for each of these uses if you would like.
Okay.
Whether we have definitions or we need to add the definitions or where we further justify where they are.
Okay. Is there a big rush on this ordinance? or the interim use print, or the ordinance change? I mean, can we delay it for a week or two without?
We can certainly do that.
Okay. Is that acceptable to get some more
I
information?
got some
on this
questions.
stuff? Yep, Mr.
How many acres do the Vines have in Belle Plaine?
Within the city limits of Belle Plaine?
20,
I think it's,
10?
do you know? 20 or 40?
It's not 200, I mean,
Well, yeah, but the total,
Well,
yeah,
that's-
you're right.
that's
No,
township,
that's
right.
good, that's
they could sell
clarification.
them a
Yep.
feedlot in the township. They could raise mink and dogs, but
Yeah,
very little is in the city limit.
right. It is some 40 acres, I think.
Could
It's
be.
that
Could
big
be more.
field. Maybe it's only 20, but you're right. Thanks for the clarification. Okay,
Mayor?
yep, Mr.
It
O'Loughlin?
seems to me that we have made an effort in the past to periodically